Fort Worth. Opening statements about to get underway in the killed while babysitting trial. Former officer Aaron Dean, accused of killing 28-year-old Atatiana Jefferson in her mother's home after responding to a 911 call that her door was ajar. A concerned neighbor said, "Hey, you can go check out my neighbor's house. The door's been open for hours." Initial response, they go to the home, and inside they see the victim in there, and an officer outside, Aaron Dean, ends up shooting and killing her through a glass window. Let's go into court right now. The jury is in the courtroom. The judge is giving the jury some preliminary instructions before opening statements. We expect opening statements to begin at any moment. We'll listen in a little bit here and get a flavor for this new live trial.
So there may be times that we may not work at all one day because of the trying to get the experts into town. So don't hold that against anybody else. It's just the way the world is right now. But I am very aware that y'all are taking time out of your schedules, and I will work in a manner that time work is done well, okay? You know the rules about taking notes, okay? We furnished you all of the pad and everything for you, and so it is, want you to be able to feel comfortable and to do your duty. Is the state ready to proceed?
State's ready, Your Honor.
And defense is ready.
We are, Your Honor.
Mr. Dean, if you'll stand.
Style of the State of Texas versus Aaron York Dean. Indictment number 1616871D. In the name and by the authority of the State of Texas, the grand jurors of Tarrant County, Texas, duly elected, tried, and paneled, sworn and charged to inquire of offenses committed in Tarrant County in the State of Texas, upon their oaths do present in and to the 372nd District Court of the said county that Aaron York Dean, hereinafter called defendant, on or about the 12th day of October 2019 in the county of Tarrant, State of Texas, did then and there intentionally or knowingly cause the death of an individual, Atatiana Jefferson, by shooting Atatiana with a deadly weapon, to wit, a firearm. Paragraph 2, and it is further presented in and to said court that on or about the 12th day of October 2019, the defendant in Tarrant County, Texas, did intentionally, with intent to cause serious bodily injury to Atatiana Jefferson, commit an act clearly dangerous to human life, namely, shooting Atatiana Jefferson with a deadly weapon, to wit, a firearm, and thereby cause the death of Atatiana Jefferson. Signed the foreman of the grand jury against the peace and dignity of the state.
Mr. Dean, to this charge, you may plead guilty or not guilty. What is your plea?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may be seated. Does the state wish to make an opening statement?
We do, Your Honor.
Just Dick. Okay. Ms. Diener, you may proceed.
Thank you. May it please the court.
Yes, ma'am.
The last words that Atatiana Jefferson heard before she died. Put your hands up. Show me your hands and breathe. About a second. And you're going to hear that after those things were yelled at her, the bullet went through her back bedroom window, into her chest, through her heart. She fell down, face down. And you guys are going to have an opportunity to see and hear exactly what happened next. She says, oh my God. And then the next thing that you're going to hear that Atatiana heard, the last noises she ever heard, were her 8-year-old nephew, Zion, his cries. Because when Atatiana Jefferson, just 28 years old, died in her bedroom face down, she was not alone. Her 8-year-old nephew, Zion, was there to watch. Now, this is not a case that deals with rival gang members shooting each other. This is not a case about a drug deal gone bad or a robbery. This is a case about a Fort Worth police officer, a stranger to Atatiana, who shot through the back of her bedroom window in the middle of the night. And she was in her home and should have been safe. You are going to hear that this is an absolute intentional act, an unjustifiable act that never should have happened. You're going to hear throughout the course of this trial from multiple witnesses that are going to talk to you about what happened in this case. They're going to hear and talk to you about what happened and how we got to Atatiana taking her last few breaths in her home. So how did we get here? What happened? So we go back. October 11th. Atatiana was killed, murdered by this defendant on October 12th of 2019, around 2:33 in the morning. So we back up to October the 11th. So October the 11th started for Atatiana and Zion very similar than a lot of other days. So you guys are going to learn a little bit about who Atatiana was. Atatiana was 28 years old. She had 3 siblings. They're right over there. Amber, Ashley, and Adarius. They call themselves the A-Team. Tatiana's mom, Yolanda Carr, she lived in the house with Atatiana off 1203 East Allen, the east side of Brooklyn. And Zion lived there too. So Atatiana, raised in Dallas, went off to school at Xavier University, graduated her biology degree. After that, you're going to hear how she came home. And in 2019, she had moved in with her mom, Yolanda Carr, off East Allen, to take care of her mom's failing health. She was also there to help take care of Zion, help raise him, because at that time, Amber was having some severe health issues with her heart. And so Atatiana was living there at that house, helping raise Zion, teaching him the responsibilities, day-to-day, chores. And you guys are going to hear on October the 11th, just a regular day, Atatiana had taken Zion outside. He's 8 years old at this time. And let me tell you, Zion's very rambunctious and energetic, as many 8-year-olds are, right? And you're going to hear from witnesses that will describe neighbors across the street that saw Atatiana and Zion outside, her trying to teach him how to mow the lawn. So this neighbor sees Zion running across the lawn, pushing a lawnmower, trying to learn how to veg. After that, on October the 11th, they went inside and they had dinner that night. They burned the hamburgers they were making in the kitchen. So there was smoke. So both the front and the side door of this house, they opened to let that smoke go out. Both of these doors also had storm doors, kind of like those storm doors that they'll have, it's either a screen or glass. That was kept shut, but the main door, the front and the side, were open to let that smoke go out. So at this time, Yolanda had been in and out of the hospital. And on October 11th, going into the 12th, she was in the hospital. And unfortunately, Yolanda has since passed away. So in that house that night, there was Atatiana and her nephew. So once they go to bed, they go into Atatiana's bedroom, and you're going to get to hear about Atatiana and what she liked to do. She was studying, wanted to be a doctor. She was working, taking care of Zion and her mother, her family. She also loved to play video games. Loved to game. She would get on the computer, play video games with Zion. That's what she loved to do. In fact, her siblings would poke fun at her for playing video games all the time. Just what she liked to do. So that night, Zion goes to bed. Tatiana's in her back bedroom. They're in their pajamas, barefoot, comfortable. They're supposed to be safe. But you're going to learn that around 2 o'clock in the morning or so, Zion, who's asleep in her bed, he wakes up at some point throughout the night, and he sees his Aunt Tay, which is what he calls her, is still playing video games, and she's up. So 8-year-old says, I want to play too. So he gets up and he starts playing video games with her. So they're laughing, having a good time. Tatiana and Zion had no idea what was coming. They had no idea that across the street, James Smith, a neighbor, had called the non-emergency number for Fort Worth because he saw and noticed those 2 doors were open. That front door and that side door were wide open. Lights are all on in the house. Both cars are in the garage or in the driveway. But that's unusual for those doors to just be wide open. It's a dark, really cold night. And so when the call comes through, he calls the non-emergency number, gives them the information, tells them, when asked if the neighbors are home, he tells them, well, both cars are in the driveway, and he describes them. He says that his doors have been open for several hours. I just want to make sure everything's okay. So when this defendant and his partner, Darch, her name is Carol Darch, and you're going to hear from her. Carol Darch and this defendant go in their patrol cars, 2 separate patrol cars, show up around the East Allen area. They actually park right next to a house that they believed to be 1203. They went to the wrong house first. There was a house just down the street, kind of diagonal from where Atatiana lives. And you guys are going to have an opportunity to see maps, photographs, and hear testimony from these witnesses, so you better orient yourself as to what we're talking about. So they park next to this house on the side, and then no lights, no sirens. They then go across the street, and unbeknownst to them, James Smith, that neighbor who had called, and his family were all sitting outside on the stoop, making sure everything was okay. Because they knew this house has a woman by herself and a young child. And the one thing you're going to learn about James Smith is he and his family own multiple houses on this street of East Allen. East Allen's a little bit of a niche inside of the east side. East Allen, the 1200 block where Atatiana and her family lived, across the street, there are multiple houses, and those all belong to James Smith and his family. Right next door to Atatiana is an old church or mosque. Okay? There's no other houses right next to her. To her left, you're looking at the house to the right. If you're coming outside the house to the left, you guys are going to see a very big lot, an open lot. Okay? So James Smith is the kind of neighbor that we all want. He's the kind of neighbor that pays attention, looks out for us. James Smith has lived in this area, and y'all will hear from him and learn this for over 60 years. He's kind of like the mayor of this particular street, right? He's the guy that tells you your package is on the front door. He's the guy that watches out and knows everything about the neighborhood. He actually takes a particular amount of pride. He's like the guardian of that particular area. He had called the non-emergency number before. Y'all hear about that. So he's outside along with his other family members that live in all these houses, and they're watching. They're waiting for the police to show up and pull up and check. But they don't ever see a patrol car go to the front. They don't ever see lights. They don't ever hear anyone identify themselves. What they see is two figures go diagonally across the street, go up to the front door, peer inside, go to the side door, peer inside. And you guys are going to see they don't announce, they don't knock, they don't ring the doorbell, they don't step back and call for backup. They then go from the front to the side. They check either of those doors, those storm doors, to see if they're unlocked or locked. They then continue on to the side, walking right next to Atatiana's white car. They continue, and this defendant goes wide to the right of Yolanda's car. It's in that driveway. Darch, his partner, goes between the car, the dark car, and the house. And there's a bicycle right there. And Darch kind of hits that bicycle. It's Zion's bicycle. It's a little kid's bicycle. And at this point, Tatiana, who's sitting at her computer desk playing video games, hears something outside. To this point, she has no idea that the Fort Worth Police Department had even been called. And so you guys are going to learn that as she's sitting at her computer desk, she thinks, oh my God, it's your worst nightmare, right? Somebody's trying to break in your house, in your backyard. You're by yourself, and you've got Zion. So she goes to her purse, gets the gun out that she owns, and she walks up to the window with her gun, and she's looking outside. She's got her gun out, she's looking outside. You guys are going to hear from Zion, who was inside and watched this whole thing. Unbeknownst to her, the defendant, his partner, were sneaking from the right side, coming around, and looking at the back gate of that backyard. The defendant then proceeds to open that back gate, flashes flashlight all around the backyard. Tatiana sees flashlights. She's now heard noises and sees flashlights. She thinks, I'm going to have to protect us from whatever that is. She had no idea it was someone that is supposed to serve and protect. So as she goes up to the window, as she's looking outside, this defendant goes into the backyard, stands in front of the window. And you're going to see on this body camera that he turns, something catches out of the left of his eye, something catches. He sees something, he turns, and you will hear, put your hands up, show me your hands. And I'm talking about, show me your hands, put your hands up, boom. It is not fast enough for Tatiana to process and follow the commands of an unknown stranger in the backyard, let alone fast enough for him to see anything in her hands. When you watch this body camera footage, pay attention to what this defendant says, what he does, what he doesn't do, and what he doesn't say. Because that's very important to this particular case. And we're going to watch the video over and over again throughout the course of this trial. So after this shot is fired, immediately his partner, Darch, says, we got to get in there. We got to get in there. Dean, we got to get in there. So at that point, they go from the backyard, out the gate, around the cars, side of the house, back to the front, through the carport, in the front, in through the front door, start going through the house, straight inside, and you'll hear Darch say, "Put your hands up, Fort Worth Police," starts to finally announce as they're getting through the house into the back bedroom. The entire time that that is happening, you will not hear this defendant ever say, "Go." He said, "Show me your hands. Put your hands up." He didn't say drop it. He didn't say go. And if they're about to rush into this house, he did not warn his partner that he had seen it go. So they go into the house. They rush to the back bedroom. They find Zion on the bed, hysterical. Tatiana is face down. Darch immediately takes Zion from that room, takes him to the next room to daylight, tries to calm him down. And so what does the defendant do when he gets in there and sees her? He doesn't do CPR. He doesn't put his hands over her chest to try to save her life. He doesn't do any of those things. Instead, what he does is he's looking around the room. His flashlight comes upon Tatiana's gun. When we play that video, I want you guys to listen to the side and what he said next. Looks like we got a weapon. Thank God, right? The evidence is not going to show you at any point throughout that entire video that you watched that he ever says anything about seeing the gun in her hand. And when you watch that video and you see how fast this happens, there's no way. There's no way. So after they get inside, and he is looking around, he starts playing with her gun, trying to figure out how to turn off the light of the laser, trying to figure out how to disarm it, sets it down, still not providing any kind of CPR or life-saving measures to her. And it's not until you hear at the very front, because they've called for medical help and other backup, when he hears those first few officers show up at that front door because they announced Fort Worth Police, you're going to hear him say, "We're back here." And it's at that point he grabs a blanket and finally puts it on her chest. But it's too late. And it wouldn't have mattered if he would have put that on at the beginning and started doing CPR, because she had to hold her on. So it wouldn't matter. So they perform life-saving measures, and they spend 20 minutes trying to save her life. They did everything they possibly could. But they could not save her. She is pronounced. It's at that point you're going to hear about the investigation and what happens after that. You're going to hear about how Darch, his partner, when all the different supervisors, the entire Fort Worth Police Department shows up out there at the scene, that Darch does what's called a walkthrough of the scene. This is something that is done in police shootings. So she goes through and does a walkthrough. Here's where this happened, here's where that happened. She does not do that, though, until she gets the benefit of having her plea attorney there. And when I say plea attorney, I don't mean these two folks, not criminal defense attorneys, but attorneys that are provided to law enforcement by their associations. They get the benefit of having that attorney show up and be with them right after the shoot. So she does a walkthrough, explains what she has seen, what happened, from what she remembers. She's put into a patrol car, and then she is taken to the major case unit, which is a part of Fort Worth Police, and they investigate police-involved shootings, any incidents involving police. So the major case department has that particularized knowledge and training, and they handle these cases. So they did their own investigation, They interviewed Dart 2 different times, went through what happened. They looked at that video over and over and over again, frame by frame, slowed it down. They met with multiple witnesses, medical personnel, went out to the scene. Crime scene is going to testify. They're going to talk to you about what they did out there at the scene. You're going to see a bunch of different photographs so that you guys can really see and envision this house and this backyard. They took measurements. They collected the guns from both the victim from her house and from the defendant. And you're going to hear that after Major Case interviewed all of those witnesses, reviewed the 911 call, the video, looked at all the photographs, were out there at the scene, that they determined that there was sufficient probable cause for an arrest warrant affidavit to be given to a felony district judge, just like this judge. And that judge signed an arrest warrant for this defendant to be arrested for murder. At the conclusion of this case, after you hear all of the witnesses that are going to testify, you listen to that 911 call, you look at those photographs, you watch that video as many times as you need to. Thank God we have it. After you look at all of the evidence in this case, you will be sure, beyond a reasonable doubt, that this is murder. You're gonna know that this is not self-defense. This is not a circumstance where you're staring at the barrel of a gun and he had to defend himself against that person or to protect against his partner. The evidence will support he did not see the gun in her hand. This is not a justification. This is not a self-defense case. This is murder. Your home is supposed to be the one place on earth that you get to go to be safe, to seek shelter, to seek refuge. But for Atatiana Jefferson, her home was not her refuge. It was not her sanctuary or her safe place. It was her demise. And she left in a body bag because of what he did. And so we're going to ask you to hold him responsible because that's what the law and the evidence demands. Thank you.